When you are actually performing a web application pen test, what is more important is knowing about the basics.
See, this web application landscape is changing day by day.
Yeah.
So, can you name some of the newer vulnerabilities that are coming?
On the internet, all of this free content, majorly, you reach a stagnating point. You can actually perform account takeovers and lot of stuff like
There are many courses, other as well as different trainings talk about brute force attacks.
I could actually get an account takeover.
Can you name some of the cookies that we have to be in sync with the developers because we are working together?
Exactly.
Even that. That's why. though it says.
So this was more about the people who are actually getting prepared for interviews, right?
Welcome back to another amazing podcast. In this podcast, we are going to be talking about some of the web application topics and questions that a fresher or someone who wants to go for a cybersecurity interview should know. So, yeah, let's start it. My name is Shashi and I am a senior security consultant at Redfox Security. At Redfox Security, we provide various penetration testing services across different domains of cybersecurity,
Yes.
be it hardware, web application, mobile applications, internal, external, you name it, we have it covered. Another thing is that apart from providing penetration testing services, we also provide a coursing as well as different trainings. We also go to cybersecurity conferences. So if you want to take a look at our library, you can check out our website, which is at Redfox Security, redfoxsec.com. Today, I have another amazing guest with me, which is Tarak. Tarak,
yeah.
can you please introduce about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Tarak Sakardande. I work as a security consultant at Redfox Security, and today is going to be about some common questions that people have and what all questions that they need to prepare for an application interview again. So yes.
Yeah. So guys, Tarak, let's start with the basics.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
So, what are some of the key components of a web application that someone who is fresher or maybe who is also experienced should know before if he's preparing for an interview?
I really like this question. It's because again, when you are actually performing a web application pen test, what is more important is knowing about the basics and again, what all stuff is included. So, answering your question again, the web application consists of front end, back end, and again there are databases and there is also API calls being implemented. So I would say it's really, you need to know the basics and the basics understandings of all of these topics, but it's really not that important that you go deep into everything because again, API pen testing is a different field and then there are people who have different roles again. But as a VAPT, if you are applying for a VAPT role, I would suggest that you at least have the knowledge of these things.
Okay. So, another thing is that as you mentioned that there are different components of web application,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that for these components there are many vulnerabilities as well.
Yes.
So, what are some of the common vulnerabilities that a person should know?
Okay, so it's there's cross-site scripting again, which is related to the front-end part. Then there's SQL injections, which is very commonly new in the cybersecurity space, and this is more related to the database part of things. And again, there are response manipulations and stuff like that when it actually comes to API.
Yeah. So, I think you have mentioned the vulnerabilities that are the classics.
Yeah.
So, can you name some of the newer vulnerabilities that are coming, that you are seeing in your engagements?
Yeah. So a lot of times I really see vulnerabilities that are related to access control issues again, and I think even OWASP Top 10 has given it the first priority.
Okay.
Then there's response manipulation as well, where you are actually fiddling around with the response before it goes to the server. Again, that is because you are using Burp Suite, which is an advanced proxy tool again. So I might be giving some of the spoilers here, but again, Burp Suite is something that is really necessary to implement. And yeah, I think you can actually perform account takeovers and lot of stuff like that. I think it will be more, we'll cover this more as we go ahead in this podcast.
I think we are also facing, seeing OAuth type of vulnerabilities that are newer kind of vulnerabilities, as well as JWT tokens.
Yes, JWT tokens as well. And I think we also had a podcast regarding JWT tokens. So, yep.
Yeah. So, Tarak, you mentioned about OWASP Top 10.
Yeah.
So, can you tell our audience what is OWASP and what is OWASP Top 10?
Sure. So, basically, OWASP is basically an organization that stands for Open Source Open Web Application Security Project. So, what these guys did actually, so it's completely open source and they have created an outline where it has a hierarchy of the vulnerabilities based on their severity. So what are the most common vulnerabilities that are really being found, and they have outlined it in a way. So I'm pretty sure the first one is broken access control, and trust me guys, even in our engagements we find a lot of access control issues. Then there's cryptographic failures, and there's a really great outline again coming with injections on the third place. So yeah, I think I really answered that question pretty well. Yep.
So let's go to another important, I would say, topics. There are two topics which are authentication as well as authorizations.
Yeah.
So let's start with the authentication. So if you are pen testing a web application and you see a login page.
Yeah.
So what's your approach to test that functionality?
Okay, so I think the login page is really the one which is very, very important because it's the first gate of access to your application. So what I would really suggest is, first of all, I go for injections again. So you can, like we said in the first question, it was related to database. So you can try for SQL injections. Again, that is not really pretty common nowadays because, you know, a lot of people are actually moving towards parameterized queries. So you getting an SQL injection vulnerability, the likelihood is very much less now.
Yeah, but we do find it.
Yeah, we do. Actually, we do. Again, it depends on the application. There are a number of factors. Then I can go for cross-site scripting as well. So you can try it. And then the next one being the response manipulation, which I really love because a lot of people are actually implementing API calls and stuff like that. So let's say if you're actually testing a login page, I just make sure that in the response there are roles. There are times where there are roles, so you can actually manipulate it. So let's say I am a regular user, and if I change that regular user parameter to that of an admin, and then I have access to the application now as the administrator again.
Yep. So Tarak, again on the authentication. So I have seen that there are many courses, other as well as different trainings talk about brute force attacks when you are testing login attempt. So how successful is it in today's world?
Okay, so that was really a good question. I'm quite sorry for missing that point as well because a lot of people actually use brute forcing on the login page. So I would say the likelihood of you getting something, so if you are doing CTFs or you're preparing for interview challenges, the likelihood of you actually getting, since this podcast is actually about it, I would suggest that. But again, when you are actually working with client engagements, the likelihood of you getting a brute force vulnerability is very less because companies are actually implementing a good password policy nowadays. And again, even if you are actually getting along with brute forcing, there's a big stone in front of you and that's setting up the multi-factor authentication. So a lot of times you might have guessed the right password, but again, you don't have the MFA code.
Yeah, great insights from Tarak. Even I can vouch for the response manipulation. That is also my favorite because even I have bypassed some of the very, the very the login pages which are very secured, bypassed through HTTP response manipulation.
Yes, exactly.
So that's one of my favorites as well. So Tarak, can you name some of the tools that are involved in testing of web applications?
Sure. So I think the best one, hands down, it's Burp Suite, and we actually have a playlist regarding Burp Suite as well, so you can actually check out on our YouTube channel. So Burp Suite is something, I will just generalize it for the normal audience again. So it's more of a man-in-the-middle proxy tool. So what happens is that here's your web application, here's the server that the web application is actually interacting with. So now you are using Burp Suite, you are in the middle, and now you can actually manipulate and do all of this stuff. This is the most common one. The second one, there are a lot of tools that are standalone tools which are available on Kali as well. So there's a big list again, but I would name a few. So if you're going for directory brute forcing or something like that, you can actually use Doorbuster, Pharaohbuster, and GoBuster as well. And again, if you are trying to go for subdomain enumeration and stuff like that, that's more of Sublister. There's a tool called Sublister as well. So yeah, but the main thing I would say is Burp Suite. Yeah, comes handy and it allows you to do a lot of stuff. And again, according to the vulnerability or according to your methodology, you can actually involve different extensions as well. So as he rightly said about JWT tokens, you can actually have a JWT token extension in Burp Suite where you can actually directly manipulate with this stuff.
That's right. So let's let me go through a question that is asked a lot in the interview. Is like, what is the major challenge or some of the major bugs that you find in your career?
Yeah.
So can you like just to our audience, so how they can answer this question to the interview?
Yeah.
So can you please give your example? I know that it depends on the person. Experiences are different. They might have find some different vulnerabilities. But Tarak, as per your experience, can you name them?
Surely. So basically, a lot of time then I would really a big shout out to OWASP as well, because what they have outlined, I completely agree with it. Is first that I majorly find in my engagements is actually access control issues that comes broken. There's broken access control, and then there's IDOR again. So these are the authentication and authorization vulnerabilities again, and then there's cross-site scripting, which was one of my favorite vulnerabilities back in time. So there's this is just a me thing again, but there was cross-site scripting, and these are one of those ones which are major vulnerabilities, and they can actually escalate to an account takeover as well. So giving you a good example, actually a real example. So I was working with a client once, and actually I had found a stored cross-site scripting vulnerability, which is a major one. So the next part was, now it really doesn't stop here, because the problem was that the cookies, the client actually had JWT tokens, which was the access token of the user. So what I could do is I could manipulate the JavaScript in a way where I could actually send that using the work collaborator again. So guys or folks who are in this field or they have some experience, they might know exactly what I'm trying to say. But again, what happened is I could actually get an account takeover. So I was a normal user again in the pen test. I could go to that of an administrator user. Why? Because there was stored accesses. And again, if you ask me why did the stored accesses actually escalate to an account takeover scenario, is because it looks really simple and small, but the cookies did not have the HTTP only flag set. So I could send them. Yeah.
So I think let's talk about cookies. So can you like name some of the cookies, the important security cookies that a person should know? Because when we are dealing with web applications, most of the time we are getting account takeovers or we are accessing the application through the cookies. So can you name some of the cookies that are important?
Okay, so there are session IDs that are a lot of people are implementing as well. Then there are tokens, and then I would say there are certain. Majorly it's really dependent now. The application that I have come across, a lot of time there are customly set cookies as well. So you may have a token there, but I think the more part, instead of understanding the cookies, I would suggest you need to make sure that it's being implemented in a secure way. So I would really talk more about the flag section, if you don't mind.
That was my question.
Achha, that was the question. Okay, so yeah, exactly. So what the main thing is, there are flags. So if rightly I said in the scenario, if the client actually had set up HTTP only flag on the cookies, I'm not saying I would not be able to actually escalate to an account takeover scenario. So again, there's secure flag, and the secure flags make sure that the cookies are actually, if I'm accessing them with JavaScript, they must be implemented in a way so that the website actually uses HTTPS only. So
I think Tarak said it in a reverse way. I think HTTP only is the one in which we
I'm so sorry about it.
Cannot access the cookies via JavaScript. And secure flag is where we cannot access it in a HTTP protocol. Right?
I'm so sorry about it. Might have messed up.
Anyway, even I am sometimes confused about this, because if you see it says secure. It means that it is secure and we cannot access it via JavaScript. And if it is HTTP only, sorry. I think That's why. though it says HTTP only, but it is related to JavaScript. And if it is related to secure, it means it is related to HTTP. So you see, I think the naming is the confusion. That's why even we got confused sometimes. So again, guys, I think read about the cookies. Don't get confused in your interviews.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay, let's come to the next question. Let's say So at Redfox Security, we deal with a lot of web application pen test, and most of the time we are working on a tight deadline. So Tarak, how do you handle with that?
Okay, so yes, there are really tight deadlines, and again, what you're a pen tester as well as a security consultant, so you are not really going after vulnerabilities. You have to make sure that you are finding the vulnerabilities, you are documenting it, you are reporting it. Again, how much focus do we actually do on reporting in the interview?
Yeah, we did an entire podcast on reporting.
Yeah, exactly. That makes it. That explains the point again. So all of these things are very important. Again, you need to know that I have seen these things happen with a lot of fellow pen testers as well, and even me back in time when I was starting up. So they actually go for these higher critical vulnerabilities directly. So I have seen people, they are actually trying to directly go for account takeovers, or they are just going after the stored accesses vulnerability again, and they are spending 1 or 2 days behind it. So I had also came across one of this person and one of this friend, and he's like, hey dude, I will only go for these higher vulnerabilities. I'm not. So that is a very wrong approach, because again, you are working with a client's infrastructure, and you need to make sure that your pen test is up to the mark and you are giving them quality work. So again, time management is something that is very important, and you need to know that. See, again, a great tip to answer your question would be, if you know that the input, let's say you have an adrenaline for stored accesses. You want to do that, you want to test it. But now you actually know that there's input sanitization and validation in place. So, hey man, why are you actually trying to still find an accesses vulnerability there? So, and again, if there are people who are doing for response manipulation, if you are understanding that it's actually being checked server side, there's really no point in trying to find that vulnerability. So again, don't go for vulnerabilities, and again, you need to manage your time and space. That is one of the major challenges.
I think just to reinstate the Tarak's point, I think the pen tester should focus on the overall coverage of the web application.
Yes, that's great.
Instead of just 1 or 2 high-level severity vulnerabilities.
Yes.
Because you never know, a small vulnerability attacker can exploit a small vulnerability and can escalate it.
Yeah.
So if you are focused on the overall coverage, you are going to get high-level vulnerabilities as well as medium and low-level vulnerabilities as well.
Yes.
So great insight, Tarak. So again, let's go to the another question. Is like, let's suppose you have delivered your report, okay?
Yeah.
And for each of the vulnerabilities, you have written the remediation steps or the recommendations for the developers. But there are times we have seen our client calls that the developer might not adhere with the what recommendation that we have given. So in this type of situation, how do you deal with that?
Okay, so I think you have to be more of. I think the major mistake with a lot of people is that in a pen test, while they are doing that pen test, they are kind of. It's like you need to work with the developer. You really need not know that, hey, why is he raising these questions? Or you should not have that attitude because, hey, I did the work, now why is he trying to ping me again? Why is he asking me these questions? Because you need to understand that he's not in the actually security field. So make sure that you are actually communicating well with your developer. Again, is not a trouble. Developers, you are working with them again. So make sure that the communication is good and answer them on time. Let them know about the vulnerability as well, so that they understand exactly what you are doing. Another thing is, I would suggest, these are very good reporting tips which you must surely have discussed in the reporting podcast. But again, you need to have good screenshots and you have to outline them in a way, and also the explanation part should be on point. So again, communication, reporting, taking the screenshots in a very well manner, and that's it.
So me being a developer, I can say that
actually a developer.
So I can say that when we got some remediation steps from the pen testers, there are times that for the pen tester in the report we see that, hey, this is how you can fix it. But sometimes we have to change the entire architecture of the application, which might delay the application. So again, it should be a balance.
Yeah, exactly.
So there should be a balance how you want to fix it, right? So
good point, man. A very good point. I love
it. For you, it's a small recommendation, but for them, they have to work a lot. Maybe they have to change the entire architecture, or maybe they have to change that functionality altogether. So there are scenarios. So again, as Tara mentioned, that we have to be in sync with the developers because we are working together. They are not against us. We are not against them.
Yeah.
We are working together to build a better application.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the
So
approach.
yeah, Tarak. So what are the resources that the persons who are coming out in this field that they can follow, or someone who is experienced, what they should follow? Someone who know the basics and someone who are just starting out.
Okay, so I would suggest there are for web applications there is an amazing source out there which is Portswigger again. So what they have is there is vulnerability descriptions, and again there are labs, dedicated labs that you could solve. So I would really suggest, even me, I did that during my job interviewing phase. Even I learned all of this stuff on Portswigger again. Then there's Try Hack Me that you can actually try for the starters, and then there's Hack the Box as well. But I would really not suggest Hack the Box for the beginners again, because nothing against them. But I'm just giving you all tips or the things that I followed. Again, apart from this, I would really suggest the starters to actually follow our blogs that are being offered at Redfox Security, and because there's a lot of content that is really quick and it is made in such a way that it's very specific to the scenario, pen testing scenario. So again, I mean, if you're really preparing for a job, you can go through these blogs. Again, you can watch our content as well. That is something that I would really suggest. Again, for experienced people, I would say there's a lot. I mean, I think you could go for, there's materials that are, because I feel after a point on the internet, all of this free content, majorly, you reach a stagnating point.
Right.
So I would really suggest that you can read blogs. There are a lot of, and again, there's hack tricks again for the experienced ones. So that is something that really comes handy. Yeah.
So
Any suggestion from your side as well?
Yeah. So from my side, I can say that see, this web application landscape is changing day by day.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a lot of newer technologies. So I think the experienced person should focus on the newer technologies. Don't get stuck to the older technology, because we are seeing in our pen test that newer applications are built with newer technologies, and they are also implementing AI in them.
Yep.
So focus on these kind of vulnerabilities, because you never know, you might get something new.
Yep.
Right. I think a very exciting podcast. So
I would really add no problem. That's fine. I would really like to add a point. So this was more about the people who are actually getting prepared for interviews, right? So I would suggest them these platforms which I previously did. Again, I talked about Redfox Security, but there are labs such as there is BWAP and there's a DVWA, damn vulnerable application. So all of these things, they are actually vulnerable applications again, which these guys can follow first before they actually get ready for a pen test. If you ask me directly, is that all? I wouldn't say no, because there are a lot of things, and I could never, work experience can never be beaten.
Yeah,
so,
correct.
but again, these things and these certifications, they can really help you get a good grasp. So, and for interview challenges, I would give them a short summary. If you are really preparing for it, make sure that you know the authorization, authentication vulnerabilities like access control, IDOR, and then folks really like to ask about cross-site scripting and SQL injections as well. SQL injections is really a favorite topic of the interviews. Even I personally got it a lot of times. So make sure you know all of these things. And again, I would really, to spice up your interview or to really get to be noticed, I would say you need to mention all of these vulnerabilities that we actually discussed on the podcast as well. For example, the response manipulation one. So make sure that you are also adding up certain things that are really known in the space again. So you might be having a friend, or you have us, again, we are delivering this content. So make sure that you inculcate all of these steps, because again, if you are in front of an interviewer, he will definitely like the attitude that, hey, this guy is still building up the experience, but he knows a lot of things. Yeah.
So one more thing I would like to add is that focus on the practical part more. Theory is important, but the practical experience will always be helpful for you guys. So I think, Tarak, thank you for an amazing podcast. Guys, if you like this podcast, hit the like channel and subscribe our YouTube channel, which is Redfox Security. We do have a channel in Hindi, which is Redfox Security Bharat. So if you are interested in the Hindi content, you can subscribe to that channel as well. Apart from that, one important thing I would like to share is that we have been selected for Black Hat Asia. we are delivering a training on chip of forensics. So if you really into that, you can check out the Black Hat page as well as our Redfox Security page. So yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was really fun being with you, Sashi, again. And if we did not answer all of these questions in the best manner, please make sure that you drop your questions in the comment section as well. And again, you can actually reach us to our LinkedIn as well, which will be in the description. So again, thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
really good day. Yes.
Bye.